In this session I'm going to explore the kinds of things we have to do to make a piece of classical music in the digital realm sound a little bit more analog. You can certainly make more, I suppose, beautiful music in one sense, in a kind of perfection way, if you're only using kind of samples and using kind of presets and all the kind of inbuilt reverbs and things. But if you want to make it sound, make it breathe a bit more, then this would be the way to go. Alright, let's have a quick listen to the demo. A bit of patience here, a bit of a piano intro. This is taken from a Mozart Piano Concerto in the Adagio section. So quite a nice slow piece here to listen to. Okay, so the things I wanted to talk about are certainly automation. The piano track here is actually all these kind of controller data things are just a pedal actually, so there's nothing clever going on there. It's just being played the way it ought to, I hope. The violins, violas, cellos and basses, in fact all the woodwind as well, so the whole orchestra have been automated a lot. In fact, if we just look at the mix view, you can see that every single track is read enabled, so there's quite a lot of automation going on, and that's important just to get that the phrases to kind of come alive a bit. The thing about automation, I think that's also important, is that you can separate it out. So as you can see, there's a region here, and then beneath that, or whatever, happening at the similar time or same time as this automation track. And I did that separately. I didn't automate on the fly immediately when I recorded the music in the first time. So I'd play the violin section, but then I did the automation afterwards. And I mean, that might be 2 or 3 parameters at once, depending on how many things you want to do, with your controller parameters in terms of your MIDI controller or whatever. But you could do one after the other, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, separating out the notes from the controller data is a way of just being able to delete some of the automation if it wasn't good enough, and just kind of redo that separately. You could of course go into the hyper editor and work in there as well, but it's just a little bit more kind of clicky, whereas to just play it again until you're happy with the automation is quite a nice way of working. So separating the automation out is one thing. The thing I've done in terms of automating, I've also set up several buses, so the whole mix is going out. As you can see, every single instrument is going to bus 6 now, and bus 6 is my music mix, if you like, and that's then going out to separate buses as well. So I'm sending a little bit of that signal out to number 9, what's that? The EQ. I've set a match EQ up. If you don't know how to use it, check out a video, another tutorial somewhere. They're a little bit cheaty. It's a bit like using kind of cheats in Photoshop where you kind of match images to other kind of reference material. But I had I think it was the Berlin Symphonic or something, I can't remember, with Daniel Barenboim playing this same piece, and I just copied a little bit of that EQ to get my responses to sound similar, mixed a bit of that in. So the other bus I've used is a little bit of stereo spread and some extra channel IQ, yeah, a clever channel, some channel EQ. This one actually dampens the signal down a little bit to get this more analog feeling. Some of the sample libraries you're going to find you've got too much on the top end, it's just a bit squeaky, so I just emphasised bass a tiny bit and took down the treble. And the other thing is a bit of extra reverb. Now that's important because I was using, for instance, the piano is an east-west instrument, but some of the other elements are from Vienna. Now they don't have the same kind of reverb, so you want to get that all to kind of match up as much as possible. So especially if you are using slightly different reverbs, you're going to want to feed all of that together to a slightly separate dedicated reverb channel, just to kind of treat it all with this kind of similar space, just to kind of give it a bit of cohesion. And what else have I got going on? The mix was also, the music was automated here separately, so I've automated each instrument in terms of the phrasing, then done the mix of the music as well, then automated the mix as well. I mean, if we have a little look at one section here. Just to give it kind of more breath there. The other thing, of course, classical music, you know, there's no compression here whatsoever. You can see that I've only used EQ and then sends for reverb and things. Yeah, and that's quite important because get the real kind of dynamism rather than kind of slightly pretend dynamism with too much compression or you know, just kind of just used no matter what, just to kind of give extra volume. So for that I've just used the utility of using gain, you know, to bring it up a little bit so we can actually hear what's going on. If I were to turn the ad limiter, I have got an ad limiter on here, I'm pushing it a tiny bit more, but I only peaked once for about 1 second somewhere, so you know, I'm quite happy with that. The other thing, just to give a bit more realism, is the room tone. So we've got just some kind of static in a way in the background, and the way that's been controlled to fit in with the music that's being played is I've sent the piano, where have we got it? I've sent the piano to bus 2, and bus 2 is a bus with no output. So all that's doing is it's receiving the signal from the piano, and then the piano is able to determine the rate at which the room tone is compressed. So on the room tone I've set a compressor then, and you can see that the input is bus 2, that's the piano signal. So every time the piano plays, the room tone should, you know, react ever so slightly, so we feel that those things are connected. So, you know, it's the hiss is from the analog recording of the piano, if you like. Of course it's not analog, it's just us recreating that here. And what else? Tempo change is massively important, of course, as well, to give that, you know, real classical rendition here. So we've got quite a lot of tempo changes. To make that possible and useful whilst still recording, you want to beat map. Now, beat mapping, again, look at a separate tutorial if you're not sure what beat mapping is, but it is massively important. I will just show a couple of tracks. The basses, for instance, are pretty much the clear, a good demonstration of this here. So we can see that the long lines here, the first beats of the bar. This is pretty much sort of 6/8ish or something similar. Anyway, here we've got the first beat coming in, and then here I've even done it per crotchet, basically, just to kind of keep everything quite nice and tight. So I'm staying with my you know, slightly more random tempos to make it musical, but I'm still beat mapping so that I can kind of use, not quantizing as such, but I can just kind of visually make sure that there aren't kind of really erroneous notes anywhere, or the timing isn't out too much. And the last thing are just some very, very subtle little orchestral effects. These aren't from any particular library, I think I just made these myself. So this would just be the violins kind of, you know, picking up their bows or just moving slightly to kind of start the phrase. So we should hear a tiny bit more air, if you like, in the air, or some sort of expectation before this upbeat here. It's very subtle. So there we go. A few tips on making a orchestral piece in the digital realm, hopefully. sound a little bit more realistic.